What is going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. And I know a lot of people were really excited about Morbius and the possibility of Andrew Garfield Spider-Man returning in some way, shape, or form, and possibly being in the movie Morbius. And if not in Morbius, hopefully returning to the Sony Spider-Man Universe, whether in his own film or an upcoming Spider-Man film like Kraven the Hunter or Madam Web. But now, I'm actually quite concerned for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man because of what is happening right now with Morbius. Now, some of the press has had the opportunity to see Morbius in full, and they have posted their initial reactions online, and unfortunately, they're not very good. Now, I'll go over these and talk about what to actually expect from the movie Morbius, but we also need to talk about what this means for Andrew Garfield's future in the Sony Spider-Man universe. It looks like it could be really, really bad, but there are ways to save it. So let's go ahead and talk about what exactly is going on here. And if you love Marvel and you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. So we're going to be talking about Morbius a little bit right now. Like I said, the initial reactions are out and the post-credit scenes have actually been leaked. Now I'm not really going to go over them in detail because I don't want to go over that many spoilers for the movie, but I will generally talk about them just so we can link it to Spider-Man. Now here's kind of the first red flag that I heard about Morbius that made me go, oh no, Spider-Man might be in trouble. And Sony and Marvel Studios also made it very clear that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is not going to be the Spider-Man that could have possibly appeared in Morbius and other Sony Pictures Universe films, which leads us to believe, along with all of the reports and the rumors, that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man would be the one in the Sony Pictures Universe. In the trailer for Morbius, we see Morbius walking down an alleyway, and on the side of the wall is a picture of Spider-Man. That got everybody super freaked out, super hyped up, very excited. However, it doesn't look like that's in the movie. According to some of the press that has seen the film already, they took that part out. You no longer see Spider-Man on the wall. Now, the big question is, why did they do this? Now, I think this is kind of a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing. According to some people that I've spoken to, that originally was indeed going to be in the film. It's not something they just put in the trailer to hype people up. That was actually supposed to be there. However, as many people may know, they did a lot of reshoots for Morbius recently and changed a few things, including Michael Keaton coming back to do some reshoots himself. And one of the things they changed, of course, was Spider-Man coming off the wall. Now, of course, it's a bad thing because, well, they kind of took Spider-Man out of the movie. I would not expect Spider-Man to show up anywhere in this movie, even in the post-credit scene, in which he doesn't actually show up, but we'll kind of talk about that in a bit, because it is related to Spider-Man. But on the better note, hopefully they took that part out of the movie because they have other plans for him. After the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man got his redemption in the film. Everybody loved Andrew Garfield Spider-Man in Spider-Man No Way Home. He gave an amazing, emotional performance, and everybody wants him back. Everybody wants the Amazing Spider-Man 3 to happen now. There's even a petition going on out there about it. And the official Spider-Man Twitter account has even said that they have acknowledged everybody wanting to do that, and they've acknowledged the Make TASM 3 hashtag, but they also said they're not the studio, they don't make films, but they're still Sony. So Sony has definitely acknowledged this. And hopefully, with the massive success that Spider-Man No Way Home had and the big appreciation for Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, hopefully this made Sony rethink some things and think about how to incorporate Andrew Garfield Spider-Man in their Sony Spider-Man universe somehow, and hopefully that's where these changes are coming from. Because, as I'll talk about in just a bit, there are plans for Spider-Man with Sony. They make this very clear in Morbius. But let's talk about what some of the critics are saying so far, because it looks like they're pretty disappointed. Now, let me add that you should see this movie and make an opinion for yourself. Don't just listen to the opinions of other people. Just because they don't like something or like it doesn't mean that that's how you have to feel. Make your own opinion. Here's what Sab Astley from Collider had to say. Well, Morbius is about as bad as you were expecting. A 2005 plot collides with visually confusing CGI to create a bit of a snooze fest, but don't worry, they saved the worst for last, featuring some of the worst post-credit scenes you've ever seen. Sony are off their rocker. This was kind of one of my bigger fears for Morbius because they finished shooting this thing over 3 years ago, I believe. Now, of course, it was delayed due to the pandemic, and that's no one's fault, but it's changed dates so many times. But Wolf of Geek Street said, in Morbius, Matt Smith gloriously hams up the place and Oliver Wood delivers some visual flair to the action sequences. Aside from that, the bad plotting and messy CGI, confusing editing, and worst sound mix result in absolute incoherence, but the post-credits manage to outdo it all. So this review says that it's bad, but the post-credits are worse. Now, from what I've heard about the post-credits, again, I won't go into details about them, but if you don't want to know anything about them, I'm briefly going to talk about slight spoilers. From what these critics have said about the post-credits, the two of them are connected to each other, don't make that much sense, and they kind of talk about Spider-Man. They don't show Spider-Man, but they lead us to believe that there is going to be something with Spider-Man happening in the future. I mention this because most of the critics are mentioning the post-credits as well. Cameron Howe says, Morbius is just as disjointed and boring as you expected it to be. Clearly butchered in an edit by a studio who had no clue what they wanted to do with it. Not that there's a good film trapped in there. Mid-credits are a joke, but stick around if you like rolling your eyes. And there are a few other reviews out there that talk about how confusing the story is, but we really don't need to dive into any more reviews. Now, I think it's very clear that they didn't really know what they wanted to do with Morbius. I think originally they had planned on some type of Spider-Man being in the film, and I hope that it changed because they want to incorporate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man into their universe, but now I'm kind of concerned. Spider-Man No Way Home was awesome, but it was because it was partnered with Marvel Studios and took place inside of the MCU. Kevin Feige was in charge. If they make The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Sony's going to be in complete control of it. Marvel Studios isn't going to be involved at all unless Sony asks them to help, in which they might not. They probably won't, actually. Now, like I said, the post-credit seems to at least tease that something is going to happen with Spider-Man, and I want to assume that it's Andrew Garfield Spider-Man considering everything that we've heard. But what does this mean? Does this mean that The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is coming? Does this mean that Andrew Garfield is going to be in Kraven the Hunter, or Madam Web, or a Spider-Woman movie that Sony is developing? Because it does seem very clear. Sony has, of course, their own Spider-Man universe, but there is no Spider-Man. It just doesn't make sense, but it does seem like they have a plan to include Spider-Man in it in some way, shape, or form. But Andrew Garfield Spider-Man had such a redemption in Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm now kind of worried for him because at this point I don't necessarily want him brought into this mess. Now, Morbius could be an amazing movie for some people, and if it is, awesome. And Kraven the Hunter could be an amazing movie as well. Madam Web could be great, and Sony could turn it around after this because again, Morbius was shot over 3 years ago. It went through a bunch of reshoots, a bunch of delays. A lot can happen in 3 years, and again, Spider-Man No Way Home might have changed what Sony wanted to do with Spider-Man, so this could be a good thing that Morbius is kind of messy. Not for Morbius the movie itself, but for the future of Spider-Man and other Spider-Man related films. I'm hoping things are getting messy because they're making changes to incorporate a Spider-Man in their universe. I hope it's Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and I hope they do it right, but again, I'm kind of concerned, but let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. And are you still excited to see Morbius after hearing some of these critic reviews? Of course, I'm still going to go see it, and I hope it's not as bad as everybody's talking about. But let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the latest Marvel news. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.